Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Friday. It is Friday, isn't it?
Oh, tomorrow.
No, whoops. Good morning, Ruby. Good morning, Kerry and Emily from sunny Clinny. It's wet. It's wet in Hampshire today. It's raining. Eric did not want to go out this morning. Don't blame him. Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Tina. Good morning, Diane. Good morning, Jalala. Lots of lovely people watching. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you are watching, please pop a hello in the comments. And we'll see where we go. Good morning, Tony. I love my hair. Thank you. It's just out of the way. Sephora, that was very bewitched. Yes, got magic twinkles this morning. I'm downstairs today, so you'll have to ignore the phone if it rings. We don't mind. It's a working office. It shows we're actually doing something. Good morning, Lolly. Miserable here too. Yeah, wet and rainy in Hampshire today. Good evening, Sephora. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, good morning. Charge of the Goddess is today. Charge of the Goddess. Good morning, Christine. In bulk blessings to you as well. Yes, to everyone. It's upon us. Good morning, Xenia. Sitting here with my coffee. I don't have coffee, but I can hear the kettle boiling. It's a good sign. Yes, Charge of the Goddess today. We discussed the Wiccan Read last week, and someone suggested Charge of the Goddess. Thank you. Very good idea. So that's what we're going to have a look at today. Are you familiar with the Charge of the Goddess? Do you work with the Charge of the Goddess? If you do, how, when, and where? If you don't, why not? There's no right or wrong, just opening it out for discussion. Ruby set a Witches Weekly alarm. Excellent. Next week... I am right, aren't I? Next week is next week. Next week we have a special edition of the Witches Weekly. Yes, we have the rabble. Next week is myself and Ness and Heather. So you've got all three of us next week. A Q&A, Witches Weekly meets Waffling Witches. So brace yourselves. Shenanigans are afoot for next week. So good morning, Karen. So yeah, Charge of the Goddess. That's what we're about today. It's an interesting one. It is an interesting one, and I'd like to thank everyone. Actually, we've had some quite grown-up discussions the last few weeks, and some of them are quite not controversial, but people have strong views about them. But everyone has always been polite and sensible and accepting. So thank you to everyone for making it such interesting discussions rather than bun fights. Good morning, Jane. Good afternoon, Fairy Queen. Next week will be mischief. Yeah, next week probably not grown-up conversations of any kind. Next week will be chaos. Good morning, Tanith. So yes, Charge of the Goddess. Charge of the Goddess. Sephora will think of questions and words that will bamboozle. Good word. Good word. Yes, questions for myself, Ness and Heather next week. Do let us know and we'll see where we go with it. So Charge of the Goddess. I think when people talk about Charge of the Goddess, they are probably referencing the Doreen Valiente one. Maybe Starhawk's version. Good morning, Trudy. There are lots of versions. In my Beneath the Moon book, there's even my version of it. I wrote my own one. So there are lots and lots of different versions of it.
You're advertising one of your books, eh?
Advertising a book, don't be silly.
Morning from the hand.
Well, that's quite creepy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all right there?
Yeah. I'm fine. I must admit, I've used the Charge of the Goddess for drawing down the moon. That's mainly when and where I use it. Not really in anything else in ritual for drawing down the moon. But, it has various purposes. Good morning, Luna. The charge, the actual term charge, apparently, is a Masonic one. It's basically a list of instructions. That's what it means. Good morning to the hand, yes. Flying coffee from the magical barista. Yeah. Absolutely. If you see me looking to the side, it's because I've got two screens and I've got my notes on the other screen. I'm being all techie today. It is a list of instructions, and it does come apparently with the authority of the gods. That's the whole idea of a charge, is that it is a list of instructions given with permission, authority, blessing of the gods. That's what a charge for. So the charge of the goddess is a list of instructions from the gods to the goddess. I use it in drawing down the moon, the idea being that reciting the charge of the goddess helps invoke the goddess, the energy of the moon, and so that spirit comes down into the high priestess, high priest, or whoever is reciting charge of the goddess. Drawing down the moon is quite a powerful thing. Yeah, it's done within ritual, and it's usually done by a high priestess or high priest, because you need a bit of experience to work with it. You are inviting the energy of the goddess into you. So it's quite a powerful thing. And the words from the charge of the goddess are a way of doing it. Originally, apparently, the charge of the goddess had a couple of purposes. It was for drawing down the moon, and it was also for an explanation, really, of the Wiccan religion, and it was often recited when an initiate into the first degree, they would recite it, or it was recited to them on your initiation. So a couple of purposes there originally for it. First published version of the Charge of the Goddess dates back to Charles Godfrey Leland's Aradia, Gospel of the Witches, and that was 1899, so fair while back. Second version of the Charge of the Goddess dates back to the late 1940s, and that's good old Gerald Gardner in his Book of Shadows. Doreen Valiente's version of Charge of the Goddess dates back to the 1950s, 1957-ish. Hers is probably the one that most of us will recognise, I would guess. Starhawk's version, then from the late 70s, and that shows up in her Spiral Dance book. So lots of different versions of it. There are suggestions that it came from much older sources, or bits of it came from much older sources. It's a useful prose. So let's get some of these up. Angela did work with Valiente's Charge of the Goddess early in my practice, but now I've come back to paganism. I've moved away from Wiccan ceremonial aspect. Yeah, I mean, I don't work with my Wiccan ceremonies. I haven't done for years, but I do occasionally work with drawing down the moon, and the Charge of the Goddess does work quite nicely for that. But I'd say I wrote my own version. I adapted it and wrote my own version, so it's flexible. Emily, good morning. Professor Ronald Hutton recently gave a moving recitation of the Charge of the Goddess in one of his Gresham College lectures. He inverted it so he was addressing the goddess. Nice. Zephora, so not a solitary practice then. Drawing down the moon, yes, you can do it yourself. Most of the times I've done it, it has been in my solitary ritual. But it is quite a powerful thing, so you need a little bit of experience, I think, before working with it, because it is quite a powerful experience. But yes, you can absolutely do it as a solitary. Good morning, Angela. Karen, I am aware of the Charge of the Goddess, Doreen Valiente version. Used it in my early days on the path, but not now. To me, it kind of says, do you know that Christian God thing? Well, we're doing things differently. Oh, yeah, pretty much. It does. Hannah, can you make your own version? I did. There is my own version of Charge of the Goddess in my Beneath the Moon book. So yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wave the book. It's miles up there on the shelf and I can't reach it. It's the big one, the great big thick Beneath the Moon. But no, you're right. They know which book it is. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it. I like the Charge of the Goddess. I did tend to work with Doreen Valiente's version. But I wrote my own because it was more personal to me, and you know me, I don't like to keep things as they are. I like to adapt them. So I'll be very, very, very. Let me just have a sip of coffee. I'll be very grand. I probably won't be as eloquent as the prof, but I will read you Doreen Valiente's Charge of the Goddess. So, Mother darksome and divine, mine the scourge and mine the kiss. 5-point star of love and bliss, here I charge ye in this sign. Bow before my spirit bright, Aphrodite, Arianrod, lover of the horned god, queen of witchery and night. Diane, Brigid, Melusine, am I named of old by men, Artemis and Ceridwen, hell's dark mistress, heaven's queen. Ye who ask of me a boon, meet ye in some hidden shade. Learn my dance in greenwood glade, by the light of the full moon. Dance about mine altar stone, work my holy magistry. Ye who are fain of sorcery, I bring ye secrets yet unknown. No more shall ye know slavery, who tread my round on Sabbath night. Come ye all naked to the rite, in sign that ye are truly free. Keep ye my mysteries in mirth, heart joined to heart and lip to lip. 5 are the points of fellowship that bring ye ecstasy on earth. No other law but love I know, by nought but love I may be known. And all that liveth is mine own. From me they come, to me they go. Might sound a bit different. Does it sound a bit different? Because there's two versions of Doreen Valiente's. There's a rhyming one and there's this one. It was rewritten, apparently done at the request of her coven mates. But that is her original one. Quite powerful words. Let's see what we've got here. How does it feel to draw down the goddess for those that have? Just curious. Powerful, very powerful. The idea is that you are not just inviting goddess into circle, but you are inviting her spirit into you. Some of the more dramatic, bigger rituals, you will find that the high priest or high priestess will invite the goddess spirit in, and they might do prophecies and divination and, speak with tongues and stuff. It's all a bit dramatic for me. But it is very powerful, and it is about literally drawing down the moon. So you are literally drawing the energy of the goddess to you within. So it is insightful, it is powerful, it is an experience. Because you aren't just communing with the deity, you aren't just listening or looking for signs or symbols. That energy is within you. It's an experience, that's for sure. Xenia, like the witch's background. This image behind me was drawn by Tom Brown, and it is the basis for the new Kitchen Witch website. So if you haven't seen the new Kitchen Witch Hearth website, it's got all of that artwork on it, and it has caricatures of myself, Ness and Heather. Not intentionally, but that's the way that it came out. Angeli, love your liquor set behind you. It's small. It is. I found this in a bric-a-brac shop in Brighton. It is Art Deco style, but it's from the 1950s. But I love anything Art Deco. I love all the glassware. I collect all the glassware. But this screamed magic to me. It's got the tray and the bottle, and then it's got 8, as in the 8 Sabbaths. Look how tiny they are.
You notice her face has lit up when you said that.
I love it.
Good question, Angela.
I love it. I'm going to be working some magic with that. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Emma. Jane, letting the goddess in sounds a bit like doing trance work. Yes, it is kind of. You are inviting that energy to you, into you. So yes, it is a little bit like trance work. Yeah, which is why I say do it when you've got a bit of experience. There's the link to the Kitchen Witch website. Thank you. It has had a complete revamp. So a cocktail shaker that matches a set. I've got all sorts of things. Mostly you find them as dressing table sets, little candlesticks and little pots for all your jewellery and bits and pieces. I've got quite a few of them. There you go. So the one I read, the Charge of the Goddess poem that I read, was one of Doreen Valiente's versions. There are, as I say, several of them. Xenia, looks like a magical potion bottle in the middle. It does. It does. So let me just... So the idea of using the Charge of the Goddess for drawing down the moon works. It was one of the reasons for using it. The idea of drawing down the moon is apparently older. The history of the actual drawing down the moon ritual may have begun in ancient Greece. Thessalian witches were believed to have been in control of the moon. There's also the Gospel of the Witches one defines drawing down the moon as well. It is a ritual that has been practiced, it seems, for thousands and thousands of years. But in the format with the Charge of the Goddess, it is very Wiccan. But, even if you're not Wiccan, do have a look at it because it is quite interesting. I will read you mine. So this is my version of Charge of the Goddess. I am the mother of all life. I am the emotion of living, the beams of mystery, the spark of creation in the skies. I am the reflection on the water. Whenever you have need during the dark hours, any day of the week, look up to the skies and feel my power. I am the spirit within you. Whether on your own or gathered as a group, look to me, learn from me, and honour my wisdom. I will share my knowledge, intuition, and power. Celebrate under the night sky, dance in the light of my beams. Eat, drink, sing, and make merry, all in honour of my name. I am the spirit of knowledge and love for the earth. Share my love and emotions with all beings. Strive towards your wishes and desires. Keep your faith strong, love and respect one another. My power and might will open doors for you. I will shine the light to guide your way. My spirit and energy will fill you with the power and desire to keep you on the right pathway. I open my heart to the goddess within me. Blessed be. So it is quite acceptable to write your own version, Charge of the Goddess. Let's go scrolling back. No, scroll. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Jackie. Bought a cauldron and hardware shop in Brighton. Brighton's fabulous. Ness, Heather and I went to Brighton on Monday. It was brilliant. Brighton just has a fab vibe to it. Zephora would look amazing with absinthe in the bottle. I tried absinthe once. Never again. I should imagine it's what it's like drinking car battery fluid. Can you choose which goddess comes to you? I think with drawing down the moon, in my experience, it is the goddess as a whole. It is the energy of the moon. It is the energy of the goddess in her all-encompassing, rather than being a specific goddess. Selene, Diana, Artemis, one of the moon goddesses. It is her energy as a whole. It is the goddess that, with all of her facets. That's not to say that one individual character facet wouldn't come to you, but in my experience, it's more about the whole energy of the goddess as a collective without getting Star Trekky. That's my experience with it. But has anyone here worked with Drawing Down the Moon? Does anyone work with Charge of the Goddess? Do you have any experiences? Do pop them up here and we can share. Angela, off to search the French brocantes in search of my own. You will probably find them, actually, Angela, because a lot of this glass is French. A lot of it is French. Christine, got the dressing table set. You're welcome to take off my hands. Oh, it's turquoise. Don't know why I bought it, as it goes with nothing in my house. I do have several sets. I think they're beautiful. I can remember my grandma having a set on her dressing table. It's one of my things. I like vintage glass and vintage crockery. I have just discovered Art Deco 1920s cookie jars. I'm going to need more shelving or something. Karen, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. Felt like I'd just done something special. Kind of filled me with an energy that made me feel empowered, yes, and gave me a sense that I was on the right path and to stick with it no matter how much people made fun of me. It was late 80s, early 90s. People are much more accepting now. It does. It is. Empowerment is a good word, actually. That is how it is. Definitely. Good morning, Zara. Good morning, Jalissa. Sound is lagging behind the picture. It may be. Let me turn off this other screen. I've got two screens and computer struggles to cope. So let's see if that helps. Tina, love your version. Sounds so fun. Thank you. I think you're putting your own words to it. So it is going to be far more personal. It is going to be far more powerful. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to be poetically beautiful. It just has to have meaning for you. And I think that goes with the Charge of the Goddess, a read, if you wanted to write your own read, or poetry or spell writing. Is if you put your own words to it, is going to be far more powerful. Lagging. I think it is this computer. My apologies. My computer's a bit struggling to cope. Jane, I've done Drawing Down the Moon as part of the Kitchen Witch course, but not with Doreen's charge. It's a bit long, and the neighbours would be sneaking up on the fence either side to have a good old earwig. Yes. Now, Drawing Down the Moon does work better if you're outside and literally under the energy of the moon, but you can do it indoors as well. It is possible. But yeah, your neighbours are always a bit interested. Yeah, just put on a show for them. Emma, lost my Charge of the Goddess I had written many years ago and would often tell it to the moon. Might write another and start reading to the moon more often. That is a good point, actually, Emma. When I say the Charge of the Goddess is used for drawing down the moon. That's your stance. That's your goddess stance for drawing down the moon. You can just use it to be read at the beginning of a ritual, at the beginning of a spell, to raise energy or power for any kind of spell working. You could use it for that. It doesn't have to be used for drawing down the moon. It is quite a useful text, but find a version that works for you. Some of them are a bit more ceremonial. Some of them are a bit more so find a version that works for you. And if it doesn't, tweak it. Make it your own. Take that structure of the Charge of the Goddess and make it your own. That's literally what I did. I put the Charge of the Goddess, the more modern one, on one side, and I began to write my own words on the other side, just mirroring what each of the lines were about. Xenia. Love your version. Thank you. Feels good for me. It doesn't require the icky. Well, yeah, there is that, isn't there? There are bits in naked in my rights. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's Britain. It's far too cold to be doing that. Never got together, speaking of freedom, and then requiring nakedness from everyone. I do. The idea of, 20, 30 people all standing in circle completely naked. Just the embarrassment of it, really. And not knowing where to look. to me, that would distract you totally from the point of the ritual. But each to their own. Can do it as a conformity, which is good and nice, but don't call it freedom. Yeah, my idea is a sign of freedom. Come as you feel comfortable. Yes, and I think that is very, very important. So yeah, adapt it, make it your own. Tweak it, whatever. Good morning, David. Having breakfast here, so the house spirits will have to wait for their cup of tea and things till after the chat. They won't mind, I'm sure. David, we're on the charge of the goddess this morning. Steve. My favourite band, Gong. Now that is a good name for a band. Would frequently pay homage to Celine Dion on the album Angel's Egg. There's a lovely song. I love Celine. I'll send you a link. Thank you. People do send me all these things. I pick up all this stuff. It's brilliant. Thank you. Xenia. Yes, your version really brings the spirit of empowerment. Thank you. Which book is it from? It's the Beneath the Moon. It's the really big one. It's too high for me to reach off the shelf.
Oh God, 34 times you've mentioned it.
Thank you. It's from that one, Beneath the Moon. It's the big, thick one that you can use as a doorstop. It's it. My version's in there. But at your own. Just go for it. Make it personal. Diane, I think I need a ritual to find my word, as when I sit down to write these things, I go totally blank. With the charge of the goddess, when I wrote my own, I literally had a version on one side and a blank page on the other, and read each line and made it, right, that's the line. How do I want to interpret it? I found that very useful because I am not poetic by any stretch of the imagination.
Really?
Apparently I am out of sync. I am sorry. I don't know what to do about that. Christine, naked ritual bit. I was taught not to be clothed naked, but to join the circle without any bias. That's the other thing, isn't it? It is taken very literally. Thoughts and be completely in the moment. It always struck me because being that a bit older, it's too blooming cold. Oh yeah, it is to be naked. My age, I need to iron me out. Yeah, me too, Christine. Me too. That's true, actually, isn't it? The whole idea of coming into the circle naked is always taken literally, that you need to be without clothes. And actually, if you think about it, the idea is more about leaving your ego behind, leaving all of that baggage behind, coming into the circle in perfect love and perfect trust. We're back to the read again. Stepping into the circle, leaving all of that stuff behind, which is another way of looking at the whole naked thing, and perhaps a little bit better. Sephora, do it skyclad. Very Monty Python. For some reason, I'm singing the Lumberjack song now. I don't know what that's got to do with anything. Diane, don't know who said it, but I once heard it said that there's nothing magic about goosebumps. Yeah, let's stick with that one, definitely. Angela, naked in my rights doesn't necessarily mean unclothed. To me, it means you are open to the spirits. This is about interpretation, isn't it? This is about when you used to get all of those, I did English lit at school, and you had all of those poems, and you had to decipher what the poet meant about. What does the poet mean when he says, oh, in the deep, dark forest? And everyone goes off into this, it was talking about the deep, the recesses of his mind. And actually, he might have just been in a forest. You don't always have to take things literally, but there are often different meanings to it. And naked means all sorts of things, not literally just having your clothes off. It is, about being unencumbered in all things, spiritually, mentally, as well as physically, or instead of physically, I guess. It's how you interpret it, isn't it? Steve, naked, wobbly in my rights. That's so many images. Xenia, totally with you, as for Skyclad. I think most of us are, aren't they? Aren't we? Yeah. Maria, it's lovely. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. You're welcome, Xenia. Jalala, trying to think how this could be adapted to animism. Not sure that's possible. I can't relate to deities. Okay, I am an animist. I am an animist too. If you are drawing down the moon, then you are drawing the energy of the moon. Doesn't have to be in the form of the goddess. It could literally just be the energy of the moon. The energy of the moon generally, or you could, if you work with animal spirits, you might connect it with the hair. So yes, as an animist, it can absolutely be done because you are working with an energy of nature. The moon is an energy of nature, so you could absolutely work with it from that point of view rather than from the goddess. Yeah, it's about adapting it to work for you. And if you wanted to write your own charge of the goddess, you could work it focusing on the moon rather than the goddess, or nature rather than the goddess. Everything's adaptable, all adaptable. Angela, spirits as in the energies you are working with, not spirits as in entities. Yes. Spirit of the land. Emma, isn't the hand a wonderful person to have around? He's 6'3" and a bit, Emma, so he's very useful for getting things off tall shelves. Hannah, I often wonder if the whole Skyclad thing was just to be shocking at the time. I think it was of the time. Wicca was 40s and 50s, but I think the Skyclad thing was very much 60s, 70s, which, it was free love. It was that whole energy of the time, I think, as well. But yes, I think you're right. I think part of it probably was just to go, hey, look what we're doing. I am out of sync, apparently. Do you know, I feel out of sync quite a lot. Maybe I'm just projecting it today. Susan, good morning. Is your version in any of your books? Yes, my own version. And Drawing Down the Moon. The idea of drawing down the moon is in this one. But if you Google Charge of the Goddess, you'll find all sorts of versions. Steve, leaving your baggage behind, not having it all flapping about, literally and physically. Literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Tina, I went Skyclad for my initiation. Did kind of make me feel uncomfortable and ruined it a bit. Yes. And I can absolutely understand that. And I would say, if you are part of a coven, do find out what the initiation involves beforehand. If you are involved in a coven and they do work Skyclad, and it's not done so much these days, but there are still a few covens that do. If it makes you uncomfortable, talk to the high priest, high priestess about it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Never do anything that makes you feel that uncomfortable, no matter how much people might say, oh, it's part of the tradition, it's part of the initiation, all being uncomfortable is all part of the process. I was initiated at Stonehenge. I was fully clothed. In fact, it was really cold, so I had a cloak on as well. And I did the whole initiation thing. I was led round the circle with a sack over my head and a noose round my neck and my wrists bound. I had to put my trust into fellow coven members to lead me, blindfolded, round the circle. It was very powerful. It did everything it needed to do for the whole, when you get into the centre of the circle and you actually have your initiation and the hood comes off and you can now see. Your ties are unbound, so you are now free. The noose comes off from your neck. It is the whole process of initiation, stepping from being bound, being held into your new life. being naked was not a requirement. And as you say, I think it would just have made me feel really uncomfortable. It was very, very powerful and not uncomfortable or embarrassing at all. David, drawing down the moon. Now, as a solo male, this has a unique dilemma. How does a male draw her down, and do you draw her into yourself? Just as a female would, and yes, you do. Every full moon, I ask her to join me and do feel her enter the space and feel her hands on like a mother, but I light 3 candles, which is where she will sit. Connecting with the moon's energy is different to drawing down the moon. So drawing down the moon is having that energy enter you. Anyone can do it, no matter what gender you are, what gender you identify with, what flavour you are, what flavour you like, whether you're human, alien, or whatever. Anyone can draw down the moon. It is the energy of the moon. It is universal. But you do draw it down into you, and it's exactly the same process as anyone would do, but very powerful. Usually done as part of a ritual, and you often use the charge of the goddess words to kind of I don't want to use the word summon because that sounds kind of,
demonic.
Demonic. It does, yes, kind of House of Horror stuff. But that's what you do. You invite that energy in. But anyone can do it. Absolutely. Good morning, Claire. Drizzly Suffolk. Yeah, it's a drizzly Hampshire too. Jane, fine, just being with my tribe makes me leave the mundane grot behind. I had a lovely time on Monday at the Golden Lion wassailing an apple tree sapling, which was then raffled in aid of a local animal charity. Nice. Joining in with the resident folk group makes one forget all the drudgery. Absolutely. Finding your tribe is an amazing thing. Xenia, totally with that idea, Christine. Yes, makes more sense. Leaving your ego, societal position and such, beautiful. Alas, most initiatory covens require literal nakedness, which puts me off. There are a few that still do. It's check beforehand. We don't at Kitchen Witch. You keep all your clothes on. Please. You've got to be comfortable. You've got to be confident in yourself. Being initiated is a big step, and it's an important step. So you've got to feel as comfortable as possible. You are supposed to feel slightly out of your comfort zone because it's a big thing, and it is stepping into a new chapter. But being naked, in my humble opinion, is not one of the requirements. Christine, remember watching Alex Saunders making a video of his rite where all the coven was naked. Couldn't do anything but laugh. Never did naked, only leaving behind all my shopping bags of problems. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. I would laugh. I would have fit the giggles. I'm not very good in very strict ceremonial rituals anyway because I like to laugh. That would make it even worse. Jalala. Maybe it's not the video. We need to ask Eric or the hand if Rachel's voice is lagging behind mouth movements. Could be. Could be. Jane, if going skyclad in the 70s was a way of sorting out who was serious about committing to a covenant, it was very unfair on those who were uncomfortable working in the buff. I think it was just one of those time things. There are a lot of things that change. And I think witchcraft, I think modern paganism is fluid. And I think it should be. Some things do need to move with the times. It's good to look back. It's good to work with things from the past if they work for you. But I think it has to be fluid and it has to work for you. Zara. So is the goddess you're speaking about Hecate? No. Don't work with Hecate. The goddess I'm speaking about is the goddess as a whole. The energy of the moon, the goddess, the overall universal goddess. I guess it depends how you see things. My idea of deity is this, that in the beginning there was she, him, neither, both, feminine, masculine, light, dark, whatever that energy was. And then it was translated into the world in different cultures translated that energy into their own religions, their own pathways. But the goddess for me is a diamond. She is a diamond, a whole diamond. And I say she, but she carries masculine and feminine, both and neither. But she is one big diamond. As a whole, she is the goddess. Each of those facets of the diamond are the individual characters, the individual gods and goddesses. Hecate, Selene, Belanus, Pan, all of those different facets are different individual characters, individual gods and goddesses with their own individual personalities. But they're all part of that one whole big diamond, which is the goddess. So it's kind of a universal collective energy rather than an individual goddess. Xenia. Some Alexandrians leave it to the decision of the witches whether they go clothed, robed, or sky-clad because of the idea of freedom. That definitely makes sense. Makes sense. Christine. Looking at floppy boobs and male anatomy, especially in the cold environment, just makes me fall about laughing. Never done it, never will. I would not be able to keep a straight face, I must admit. Xenia. Every person has male and female energies and hormones in them. Yep. Woman has testosterone too. Yeah, that's where my moustache comes from. See no obstacle where a man can't draw down the moon themselves. Anyone can do it. Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I love kitchen music. Thank you, Xenia. Angela. For my initiation, I was given the choice. I chose to make a specific robe for the occasion instead of being naked. It was the only thing I wore, though. It has to be comfortable and right for you. Absolutely individual choice. David, it wasn't the nudity mostly due to... it was Gardner. Yes, Gerald Gardner was a naturalist. Can't remember who told me now. Yeah, he was. One of the fathers of modern Wicca was a naturalist. So, yeah, I suspect he had a big influence on the whole naked thing. Xenia, you would fit very, very well into heathen groups. Love a good laugh. I do love a bit of heathenry. Ness follows the Norse heathenry path. So, yeah, we all like a laugh. Hannah, I think making your own robe is much nicer, much more personal. I think I have 3 robes. One my mum made me when I first started the pathway. One I was gifted, and then another one I was gifted at my initiation. I did the whole walking around Stonehenge blindfold jobby. When I got in the centre, I was gifted a new robe as another symbol of starting my new pathway, different pathway. Robes are very nice. They are very theatrical. They are not overly practical when you are trying to jump a fire or walk past lighted candles or anything that involves actually doing anything other than standing there for a photo shoot, in my experience. Zara. Oh. Got it. So she's the essence really of the moon. Yes. Absolutely. I guess, again, that it depends on how you see things. I see the moon as feminine and the sun as masculine. It's totally personal. There are myths and stories that tell of the moon being feminine and the sun being masculine, chasing each other across the sky, husband and wife, brother and sister. There are some cultures that swap them around and see the moon as masculine and the sun as feminine. It's whatever works for you. I've always seen the moon as feminine, so for me she is the goddess and the sun is the god. But there are balances in all energies. There are masculine and feminine in all energies, projective and receptive. They are, we're all a mix and match really, so it does have to work for you. Emma, you never know. The original whole beings' energies could have all at one time been non-binary, and they broke into different energies, feminine, male, and some remain. I think when I say feminine, it's because that's how I see the moon. But I think there's a balance. There's a mixture. It's a whole big melting pot, and there are deities that we associate as feminine or masculine. There are also deities that are, I'm thinking, Baphomet, who is both. It is all, and we see deities from a human point of view. We personify them. We anthropomorphize.
Something like that.
Something like that. Need more coffee. We make them human because that's how we can relate to them. We put human shapes and human characteristics on them. You've only got to read the Greek myths to know how unhuman deities are. But we put those faces, those shapes on them so that we can identify them, so that we can connect with them better. For all we know, the deities could all be purple blobs with 15 heads. I mean, it's in reality, they will appear to us how we accept them, how we recognize them. So, there's a whole deities possibly don't look actually like anything like we think they do. Karen, what does this say about us? We seem to have picked the naked line of the whole piece and stuck with it. Yes. I think, is that because that's the one line of it that makes us so uncomfortable? Yeah. Steve, remember hearing Paddy Slade talk about outdoor rights? She'd be wearing thick woolly jersey, overcoat and welly boots, proper stuff. Yes, absolutely. I can remember standing at Imbolc, funny enough, in a field in the freezing cold, with snow on the ground, in my wonderful cloak and boot. I did have boots on, but I could have done with a whole load more layers. I did have jeans and jumper on underneath the cloak, but to have had bobble hat and scarf and gloves and big thick coat would have been far more sensible. I froze. It was very, very uncomfortable. Tina, I see the goddess of all things as Gaia. Is that correct? Gaia is the Greek name for the goddess of all things. She is the goddess of creation in Greek mythology. Got to work for you. There's no right or wrong here. No right or wrong here. But she is seen as the Greek mother of all creation. David, if I was still in my 20s, then yes, skyclad, no problem. I'm in my 50s now and don't like being cold, so stuff that. I'm with you, David. Xenia, yes, Gardner was a naturalist. Yeah, he had health issues too and was told by his doctors the benefit of sunlight for his health and asthma. Nudity was a thing Gardner was convinced of. That's what I understood it too. Jane, when I was doing everything by the book, mostly Scott Cunningham's good books in the 90s, I made a robe for every day of the week in the corresponding colours. Wow, that's productive. Still got them, but unfortunately they're all size 12 and I'm more of an 18 these days. You and me both, Jane. We got it rocking our curves. That's quite productive to have all of those cloaks. Zara. I'm guessing an initiation is what? When you have reached a certain amount of education. Does a covenant have to ask you or do request at a certain point? Good question, Zara. There are variations on initiation. I did self-initiation when I first discovered the pathway, when I first decided that being a pagan witch was what I wanted to do. So I did a little ritual and I blessed a pentagram necklace, and I did a little self-initiation ritual, basically to say, this is my new chapter. This is my new pathway, and I dedicate myself to this pathway. I dedicate to learn things. I dedicate to listen to the gods. I dedicate myself to learning and living this life. So you can do a self-initiation. Covens will all vary. So if you have the traditional Wiccan ones, the Gardnerian, the Alexandrian, there are very, very strict rules. You have to be invited to join the coven. You have to be invited to initiate. Some of them do it at the beginning. Some of them do it at the end of your first year of training. And the idea is that you are initiated into the coven. So you are dedicating yourself to your pathway, but also to the coven. So it depends what coven you're with. Within Kitchen Witch, we do initiations if people ask. We don't put it out there as a you must do this. It has to be a personal choice. And if we're asked, we will usually ask the student to wait until they have finished their first level of training. If you are going to be initiated and dedicate yourself to something, we feel that you need to have at least the basic structure of knowledge to know what you're letting yourself in for. So it will depend on which coven you're with, but you can do it as a solitary as well. It's about dedicating yourself to your path, really. Xenia, I think the other parts of the versions of the charge are what we most agree to. It's nice verse. It is useful verse. It is powerful verse. But you have to pick the variation that works for you. Good morning, Louise. If we want to celebrate Imbolg in our garden tomorrow, we are going to need a boat. Yeah. Yes, is that here too? Hannah. Totally random question. We're good with random questions. Does anyone find being too eclectic in paganism causes you to slip from your path more? Good question. Does anyone find more structure helps them? That's a really good question. Hannah, do you know, I think we could do a chat on that, couldn't we? We could do a whole chat on that. I think the answer to that is yes. Being someone that walks a miscellaneous pathway, I'm going to screenshot that. And we'll do that in the next chat. Definitely, Hannah. Yes, I do think. We'll talk about it because we've only got a few minutes left. Good question. Diane, I made a cloak of fleece. Very wise. Very wise. Christine, Knowlton. Beautiful, beautiful spot, Knowlton. But it is very windy. Yeah, it's very open, isn't it? To stand in slinky clothes. Much. It's nice to wear, but not under a tweed coat and robe. 6 layers of clothes under my robe, energy still the same. Do you know that was one of the things, wasn't it? That one of the reasons for being naked was that the clothes stopped the magic and the energy coming through or going out. Total, utter tosh. I have had magical and spiritual experiences in my duffel coat and a bobble hat. So, yeah, you've got to be comfortable. Not sheep fleece. I know. Yes, the warm hoodie type fleece. That makes sense. Xenia. There's kind of charge of the goddess from Apellius, Golden Ass. Yes, Isis speaks of goddess of many names, and that all goddesses are names of her and such. It was in ancient times already. The whole idea of drawing down the moon does date back thousands of years. Which I like. I like that we draw upon ancient history as well. David, I can just about summon the energy to saw up the pups' toys and holes in my socks. Making your robes for every day is cool. Yeah, you need a sewing machine. Tina, is in bulk tomorrow? It is tomorrow, but I think with any Sabbath, it is celebrated for a couple of weeks before and a couple of weeks afterwards. For me, a Sabbath isn't just that one date on the calendar. The goddess doesn't read the calendar. It's just that one date on the calendar, not just that one date on the calendar. It is a period of time. So the Sabbaths are spread about 6 weeks apart, and I think they flow into each other. So for 3 weeks before the date, and 3 weeks after, you've got the whole Sabbath to celebrate. So technically it is tomorrow, but span it. The energy's there. You've got that build up. So you've got that waxing up to Imbolc, and then you've got the waning, and then you start on the next one. And it kind of flows. It's a wheel, so it turns, and they all flow into each other. But technically it is tomorrow. But, we're modern people. We have to, might have an appointment tomorrow, so we have to celebrate it today or the next day. So go with what works for you. Good morning, Karen. Painting. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Steve, even after all these years, seeing the moon in the sky at all phases still gives me a deep sense of Goddess looking down upon us. Yes, it is one of the most beautiful and simple and magical things to do is to just stand outside moonbathing. Absolutely, absolutely. Jane, goddesses don't go around naked. Unless you're, Aphrodite. She's always got very few clothes on. And they're powerful whether they wear diaphanous, good word, gauze or thick fur. But again, we put that idea on them, don't we? We put those clothes on them. We put that human figure on them. All of the artwork for Aphrodite, for example, she's very scantily clad. When we went to Athens, all of the statues of Athena, actually, she was very scantily clad. All the statues of Aphrodite, very scantily clad. In fact, all of the gods, naked, with a little bit of wisp of stuff, preserving their dignity. But we put that idea on them, don't we? We put that outfit on them. Xenia, magic can't be very powerful when it can't pass through simple fabric. I know. It can go through walls and houses and across the world, but not through clothes. I know. It's a bit mad, isn't it? There was a phase as well back in the day where you weren't allowed to wear any jewellery. And then you aren't allowed to wear any jewellery that's not silver or gold. No fake jewellery, because that interrupted the energy flow too. Tosh. Emma, no idea what to do for Imbolc. Ideas are welcome. I was thinking of recreating waking up the earth as the goddess walks the earth outside. Maybe, not sure yet. That sounds like a brilliant idea, Emma. There are ideas on the Kitchen Witch blog. There's rituals, there's ideas, there's all sorts of bits and pieces. So do have a look. And in the student forum, there's also some Imbolc ideas on the Wheel of the Year section. So do have a look. Jalala, seeing buds starting, so exciting. Yep, there's that energy, isn't there? It's there. It's there. Jane, Sabbats are usually celebrated the night before and then wallowed in on the following day. I think it is. So Imbolc, we're on Imbolc Eve today, so you would celebrate Imbolc Eve, Imbolc tomorrow, and then the day after you're kind of recovering from it. But I do think it is, you pick up on that waxing energy for a couple of weeks before, and then you've still got the waning energy afterwards. It's a period of time rather than a date on the calendar. Karen, I cleared my altar first thing this morning. We'll rebuild it today. Ready to start Imbolc celebrations this evening at sundown. Perfect. I do have some lovely gifty things here. I'm going to show you. I have my Bridget's cross that Heather made. How clever is that? And my little dolly, Bridget's doll. There are videos on, I shared the video, but there's videos on the Kitchen Witch Coven group as well of Heather showing you how to make them. Very clever, very clever. Good morning, Monique. Love walking the dogs at night so I can moonbathe and stargaze. Perfect. Yeah, they do. Goddesses often have one boob hanging out. I know, you would think they could afford proper dresses, wouldn't you?
I don't see a problem with that.
You don't see a problem with that? No, I didn't think you would. Steve, I have a big problem with the over-sexualization of paganism in general. Not saying that those energies have no place, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Yes, I do. When you're looking for an image of a goddess, and a big amount of them are kind of what I call comic book graphics, where the woman superhero always has a hourglass figure and tightly clad lycra suit. And the gods and the goddesses are the same generally. The goddesses in particular, they do tend to be fairly scantily clad. which, perhaps not quite how we should see them all the time. But yes, I agree, Steve. Karen, goddess is an energy. It's the different facets that take on how we want to see that energy. Yep, I would agree with that. Wardrobe malfunction. The goddesses tend to have quite a lot of wardrobe malfunctions. Karen, putting the Bridget mantle I made last year out tonight for her to bless. So yes, if you are looking to do something this evening on the eve of Imbolc, have a look at Bridget's mantle, do a Google search for it, because that's something that you can do tonight and it's very straightforward. Bridget's eyes, you cheese tasting, lighting lots of candles, clearing out and spring cleaning. Yes, spring cleaning, yeah. But it's that time of the year. It's candles, isn't it? Imbolc is about this fresh, it's the first signs of spring, but it's about that light coming back. So candles work very well. Karen, I always have pancakes for Imbolc, representing the pale sun starting to gain in strength. Now I know what we're having for tea. Thank you. I was wondering what to cook for dinner. There you go, pancakes today. Angela, having our online circle for Imbolc, better for me as in-person one was going to clash with Pendle Beer Festival. Priorities there. Definitely priorities. Xenia, there's also said not wearing any jewellery for Reiki treatment because it blocks the energy, but I think it's a more hygienic thing to put your rings off before treating a client. I am a Reiki master practitioner and I have always worn jewellery when I've been working Reiki. Not loads of stuff. I'm not taking my wedding ring or my engagement ring off for anybody. So that's always there. And I have certain pieces that I wear that are spiritual and magical to me. So they're staying on and they've never blocked the energy. But yes, I see what you mean about the hygienic thing. Yeah. Louise should be bringing a few snowdrops. I haven't seen any yet, but there is that time of year for them. Angela, running out of time now. Often celebrate our Sabbats the nearest new or full moon rather than the date. Feels much more in tune and powerful. It is one of those things I think you have to do what works for you. And bear in mind that the Wheel of the Year was designed in the south of England in the 70s as it stands in its format now. It is not going to work for everyone. It's not going to work for everyone in the UK, let alone everyone in the world. You have to work it to your area. And of course, in the southern hemisphere, like the lovely Sephora, you're going to be completely flipped around anyway. So it's about checking in with what nature is doing in your area. Forget the date on the calendar. What's nature doing? That's the most important connection to make. Right, there was lots more comments there. I will read them. I will read them in a second. But it's we've gone over time already. So lots of stuff on, I think. I don't know, whatever's happening. Check check my website, check the Kitchen Witch website for the events page. We've got lots of bits and pieces going on. We are doing online rituals this year, but they will be for the seasons. So we have a spring equinox one, is the next one in March. So do have a look for that, 8th of March. We have spring equinox hoard boxes available on the Kitchen Witch website online shop. I am running a curative magic online workshop for the Psychic Studies College, 15th of February, details on the website. If you are in the area of Hampshire, Wild Witchcraft Conference, Saturday 22nd of March, brilliant event. Do come along and see us. Wandering Witches, Saturday 12th of April, always a fun event as well. Lots and lots of bits and pieces happening. I'm at WitchCon online as well next weekend. Yeah, next weekend. 9th. Again, details on the websites. So yes, thank you for joining. Do have a look at the Charge of the Goddess in its many variations. It is quite powerful to work with. It can be tweaked. It's quite a useful thing to have a look into. Anything we can do for you, reach out to us. If you've got any questions for next week, when it will be myself, Ness and Heather, throw them at us. We are looking forward to chatting with you. So thank you, everyone, and inbox blessings, or whatever blessings work for you, wherever you are in the world, and whatever Mother Nature is doing in your area. Blessings of whatever. There you go. Miscellaneous blessings. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next week.